Hi, my name is Robert Hetzler, and as most of you know by now, and I wanted to take a quick second and say thank you. I hope you enjoyed the 3 prior educational videos that I've sent out to you. If you haven't watched them, there are links on this page that you can go ahead and click to them with the topics. I think you'll find those educational videos very helpful in your divorce practice. They deal with retirement division, practice tips, talk about the difference between defined contribution plans, defined benefit plans, what to include in a settlement agreement, what not to include in a settlement agreement. So if you've watched them, I hope you've enjoyed them. If you haven't watched them all, or just some of them, I encourage you to click on the appropriate link on this page and take a few minutes and watch them, because I do think you'll find them helpful. And the one thing I wanted to talk about today, just real briefly, is the new QDRO webinar series that we're launching. I'm very excited about it. It's going to be totally different than any other webinar that I've seen produced, and I think the true will be the same for you. It's what I call an interactive webinar. Most webinars, as you know, you're assigned a predetermined date and time, and you sign up and you log in, and you're limited to that 60 or 90 minute webinar. A lot of times you have questions, they can't be answered during the webinar. And I saw a big problem with that, because many times I'm watching a webinar and I do have questions, and you never know how many people are watching that webinar, how many questions the presenters are getting, but a lot of times my questions they're never gotten to or never answered because of the time, so time limitation. So what I've done is we've created a special login area. So we're going to have the webinar package, and it's going to be in a special login area where you'll be provided login details, and in that area you're going to find one 60-minute webinar, the initial webinar, and that webinar is very exciting because it talks about all the common mistakes that I've seen over the last decade or more of doing QDROs, and it includes all the mistakes that are most likely I've seen end up in some type of liability or malpractice litigation. So I do think that this webinar is going to provide a huge amount of value in your practice, because it's going to go over all the tips and tricks and best practices, things to include and consider during the settlement agreement process, because a lot of things are talked about, never make it to the settlement agreement. So what we've also done, in addition to that 60-minute webinar that you can watch at your leisure, you have a few weeks to watch that at any time you want. If you log in and you get interrupted, you can always come back and start from the beginning, start where you left off. But we're also going to have in the login area, because we're having a separate area for you, we're also going to have all kinds of great free or included bonus content. One is going to be a 1-page cheat sheet that you can carry around with you, either at mediations or whenever you're discussing retirement division, even with a client, because there's a lot of things, unless you do this every day, the retirement division portion, that can be forgotten. So we're going to include a 1-page cheat sheet that you can certainly use through any time that you're talking about retirement division in your practice. We're also going to include modifiable. When I say modifiable, I mean in Word format, so you can download them. In the members area, we're going to include sample discovery documents in requesting retirement division documents, summary plan descriptions, all the things that you may not think of, but we deal with on a daily basis. So we've compiled this over the years, and we've got a fairly all-inclusive list. And then also, as part of my practice, I do the retirement division QDRO piece, but I also am a forensic accountant, and I'm often asked by divorce attorneys, Robert, do you have a sample financial request for a production document, or something that kind of outlines every possible financial question in terms of documents to request from the other side? So it's taken me 10 years, but I've got a document that I think in Word format, again, so you can modify it if you need to or want to. But I do think you'll find a huge benefit to that, because it includes every possible financial document you could ever want in a divorce. And if you think someone's possibly withholding money, stealing money, stolen money, any of that kind of stuff, it's going to cover all of that. And the other thing that I think is kind of unique to this webinar series is, in the members area, since we can put all kinds of great stuff in there, not only are we going to have the ebook that goes along with the webinar series, but we're also I've drafted in a couple of ebooks myself dealing with financial security in a divorce checklist when dealing with finances in a divorce. And I think I'm going to go ahead and give those to you in Word format. You can clone those as your own and be the author of these ebooks. You can use them as a marketing tool, put them on your website for people to download. You can give them to potential clients. A lot of things. I've used the ebooks or something like that in my practice, and it's always been a great marketing tool to bring in potential clients. Back when I was doing divorce mediation. So I don't use them anymore. They haven't been used in a long time, but I do think they're relevant, and they certainly can help you in your practice. But I think the biggest thing about this webinar series and this whole members area concept is that we're going to do a second webinar that's all included. In that second webinar is going to be answers to all the questions that are asked in the first webinar. So everybody that attends the first webinar, again, you can watch whenever you want. You'll have a couple of weeks to do it at your leisure. There's going to be a link there that you can type in any question you have, any thoughts, comments, and you can do that multiple times over the course of a couple of weeks. You can keep them all typed up and then send them all at one time. But the important thing is you don't have to think of them all right then while you're at the webinar, because I know that I've attended webinars and as an afterthought I remember, I wish I would have asked this, or they didn't answer this, or I thought I was going to get this answer in the webinar, I didn't get it. So we're going to give you an opportunity to, and this is the interactive part, to send me all the questions that you thought that you wanted answered, that didn't get answered, that did get answered but not fully, or if you have specific case questions, we'll certainly do that if it's something that we think can benefit all the attorneys. So what will happen is after you watch the first webinar, you submit all those questions and then give us a week or two to film the second webinar. Then we'll film the second webinar and it'll be in the same login members area, and you'll get emails, updates of when this is coming out and all that. So you'll keep the same login instructions for the first webinar, and then you go in and you can watch the second webinar. So you're going to get two webinars, one tailored to your questions, one general about common QDRO mistakes that attorneys make during the settlement process, and things that best practices and tips, checklist, the cheat sheet we talked about, the divorce ebooks, the sample discovery documents, the PowerPoint presentation that goes along with the initial webinar series. So there's all kinds of great stuff in there. So I do encourage you, you can check out the webinar or sign up for the webinar at, there's a link below here on the video that you can go to. It's QDROnow.com/webinar. So it's QDROnow.com/webinar. And again, it's right here below the video. I encourage you to check it out. It's one of the most innovative things that I think we're offering here, and I'm sure that you'll receive a lot of benefit from it. And I look forward to seeing you in the webinar. Thank you.